Hi, my name is Christian Muntean. I'm an organizational development and leadership consultant. And today I'd like to talk to you about priorities and their importance in helping you accomplish more with less effort and in less time. In my work with leaders and teams, I found that it's pretty common for people to set a long list of priorities. And they become these long to-do lists or kind of honey-do lists where we have to get through these 18 things first. And what that does is it creates a lot of confusion for the team about what really is most important. And as a result, oftentimes less and sometimes nothing actually gets done. It creates a scenario where teams or leaders wander their way into success because they've picked every direction as the main direction as opposed to one direction. When I first started discovering the value or the need to clarify focus and to create priorities was early on as I was learning to and gaining experience in leading teams through strategic planning processes. And what I found is that we would set maybe 5 different strategic priorities for teams or even 3 priorities. And what would happen at the end of a quarter or at the end of the year, maybe only 1 or even nothing had been actually accomplished towards those priorities. And so I began in my processes to narrow that down to just 1 or 2 priorities that would be pursued over a course of time. And one amazing thing happened as that was part of what I did that began to help the teams that I worked with dramatically improve their rates of successfully implementing the projects that they were working on, just narrowing their focus down. Now, one of the first objections that almost everybody gives when we talk about priorities is, but I have to get more than one thing done, and that's true. We do have more than one goal that we need to accomplish frequently. There often are more than one things out there that demand our time and that we have a responsibility to accomplish or to maintain. And that doesn't go away. Setting priorities doesn't take away the list of things that we need to accomplish. What it does is it helps us navigate the list in a way that's most effective and really is most responsible. There's a quote from Gary Keller that I think is very useful in the process of setting priorities. And that quote is, "What is the one thing that I can do, such by doing it, everything else will become easier or unnecessary?" What's the one thing that I can do that makes everything else easier or unnecessary? I find that to be such a helpful tool and a helpful guide for navigating all of the things that we need to do. So I want to talk a little bit about how you determine what your priorities ought to be, particularly given the context of needing to get a lot of things done. One of the objections that I often encounter when it comes to setting priorities is that we have too much to do, or we have to get more than one thing done, so we can't take anything off the list. And that may very well be true. The concept of setting priorities actually is not at all in odds with having more than one thing that you need to accomplish. In fact, every busy leader that I work with or a high-functioning team has a long list of things that they actually have to get done or they have to maintain. Setting priorities is really just their way of navigating that list of things that they need to do. The reality is whether or not I choose to set a priority, either my own sense of preference or someone else's sense of urgency or some other outside force will actually determine the priority for me if I don't set it. And so when we talk about prioritization, what we're really talking about is using intentionality about deciding what is the most important thing for me to do right now. What is the thing that will move us further forward the fastest if I do it right now? And what are the things that are all subordinate to that? And once I've done my one thing, I can begin to move on to the other things on my list. I want to give you some basic principles or ideas for how you can set priorities and stick with them or maintain them and help actually see them through to completion. So the first principle or the first step to prioritizing well is to be very clear about the one thing that you need to accomplish. And so if we know as a team that we want to get to here by the end of the year, what's the one thing that we need to accomplish this quarter that will best move us forward to accomplish that this year? And if that's the one thing that will help us accomplish that this year, what's the one thing that I need to get done this month that will help us move towards our quarterly goal? What's the one thing that I need to get done this week that will move us towards the monthly goal? What's the one thing that I need to do today? What's the one thing that I need to do right now? That process of being very clear about what's the most important place for me to invest my time and my energy and my focus has demonstrated itself to be one of the most effective ways to actually quickly move you towards accomplishing your goals. When we start to diffuse our energy and diffuse our focus, it slows us down. So being clear, very clear in your mind about what your one thing is. The second thing that helps tremendously when it comes to pursuing priorities is to actually define what success looks like. So as we chunk down our one things, perhaps from a year to a quarter to a month to a week to a day to now, to be clear about what would success look like in me getting what I need to get done right now. It may be that I don't accomplish the entire project, so success shouldn't look like for today's goal, it shouldn't look the same as this week's goal, for example. Being clear though, what would success look like? What would be the marker that I'm trying to hit for the sufficient amount of work or the right amount of work or the right amount of accomplishment for me to pursue my goals today? What's the right amount, or what's the marker of where I need to get to this month? And having a very clearly defined definition of success is critical, because otherwise the tendency is to look back in time and just sort of reinterpret in success or make excuses for how we got to where we got without actually being able to look at, okay, we thought we would hit this point, but we didn't. Let's talk about that gap and what that means. Having clear metrics doesn't have to be a tool that you beat yourself up with. That's something that I find that people shy away from around clear metrics, is the fear of what if I don't accomplish that? And that's totally fine. When we don't hit our goals, particularly when we're not accustomed to setting goals and clarifying what success will look like, it takes a little bit to calibrate that and to learn. But after a few cycles of goal setting, what most people learn is that they learn to moderate their expectations. Like either, oh, I could accomplish more than I thought, which is common, or my goals are too big and I need to dial it back a little bit or break them into accessible or attainable chunks. So first off, defining your one thing, and then defining success. The next thing is that process of defining the timeline and being clear on how much time do I really need to accomplish this. Some people are just innately, naturally good at having a sense of how long it takes to accomplish a project. But for many people, it's not easy to do. And so taking the time to actually think it through and to talk it out with others, if you have other people around, or if not, just to think it through yourself. How long does it usually take to accomplish things like this? What other kinds of things might demand my time during that period of time? How much time do I need to set aside so that I can actually get this project done in the time frame that I want to get it done within? So if I know that I have a goal that I want to accomplish at the end of this week, how much time will it take for me to accomplish that goal? Does it seem smart or wise or safe for me to just pick away at the goal in the leftover time that I have this week? Or does it seem like it would be more purposeful for me to block time and set aside time specifically to focus on the goal? A little tip in that, most people will find that they're dramatically more efficient with their time when they block it and they're focused and they concentrate and they do their one thing at one time only. The last step to really effectively prioritize and accomplish your priorities is to create accountability. If you're working by yourself, a great way to create accountability might just be to write down your goals and review them on a regular basis, so you're staying accountable to yourself. Now, if you don't find that to be effective, if you don't hold yourself sufficiently accountable to pursue your goals or to assess why you're falling short of your goals, one of the tools that I use oftentimes is I hire coaches. I found that I work better if I have people that I'm talking to in my life that can help hold me accountable and help ask me questions about why I'm moving slow or why I feel blocked in a particular, the pursuit of a particular priority. If you're on a team, having accountability is really important. And one of the ways that you create accountability on a team is if a team, I see boards that do this all the time, at the end of a board meeting there'll be 3 or 4 or 6 things that they've decided they want to accomplish. You create accountability by assigning each of those things to specific individuals. And when that's been accomplished, you know that person is responsible. A very common experience in teams is to try to diffuse accountability. And so someone will say, I'll be responsible for that with these 4 other people. And then it's not clear which of those 4 or 5 people is the person that's responsible. My recommendation is that you always assign each responsibility to one person only. If you are the one person, if you're a one-person show, then it's good to create your own accountability. And if you can't hold it yourself or maintain accountability yourself, I recommend strongly that you either hire a coach or you create a relationship, a mastermind group perhaps, with some other entrepreneurs that are working with you, and you can help hold each other accountable. My name is Christian Muntean, and it's just a real pleasure for me to be able to bring these tools and these tips to you to increase your leadership success. To make sure that you stay up to date with any of my latest video content, please make sure to hit the subscribe button that you'll see above. And if you'd like to receive a free weekly content, just make sure that you sign up for the newsletter down below this video. And if you're watching this video any other place than on my website or on my YouTube channel, I sure would love to hear from you, and you can reach me at www.vantageconsulting.org.